Hello and welcome to Knockoff Media's Tyre for Tyre podcast, where today we're going to be talking about F1. I'm Alan.
I'm Raph.
Raph, can you tell us real quick why it's called Tyre for Tyre?
I can certainly try. So it's called Tyre for Tyre because we talk about all motorsports, American and international. So in America, we spell tires Tires, and in places like Europe, they spell it Tyres. So it's more of like an inclusive kind of title, so that way no one thinks we're only talking about one specific racing sport or another.
That is correct. Like he said, we'll be covering different topics: Formula One, Indycar, NASCAR. We'll also endurance for IMSA, WEC. So stay tuned. But our main focus will be Formula One for this podcast, and we'll try to have a podcast after every race. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Winter season is always long, but first things first, we always get the new paint schemes that all these cars come out in. So today we're going to rank our favorites from best to worst. So Rafi, uh, why don't you start us off? What do you think is the best livery?
In my personal opinion, I got to go with AlphaTauri with the ATO2, just because I like that color scheme of the dark blue with the contrast of that bright white, and it just looks seamless and it's like easy on the eyes.
Okay. So for me personally, I gotta give it to Alfa Romeo. I think that color scheme, the flipped, it was very subtle difference from last year. Just flipped. I just like it. Maybe it's because I like a shiny red car and like a really nice white contrast, but that is definitely my favorite. Rafi, what's your second favorite?
Oh, my second favorite. Oh, that's a hard one to choose. I think, and it's not just because I'm a McLaren fanboy, it's got to be McLaren. It's just a better design and better color scheme off of their 2021. I also do like how they, if you look on kind of like the back half of the car, they do have like a little rainbow going on because we all race as one. I just love that papaya orange and like the bright blue they got going on.
I was so ready for a misdirect there when you first started that sentence. It was like, oh, I really like the McLaren, but I was like waiting for that. But
But no, 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 no.
it's a solid livery. But I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be my second favorite. I'll get to that when I rank it in my order. I think for my second, I got to give it to Aston Martin. I like a British green. Um, I'm a fan of British cars, and I'm really excited for them to be back on the grid after 61 years. So, what's your number three, Rafi?
It's ironic. My number three is actually Aston Martin. It's just I do like that darker green they have because when I originally thought of it, I thought of like this brighter green that they used to have back in the days. But this time around, like that nice dark green, so it doesn't blind you when you're seeing them pass by, along with like the little accent of the color stripes, it's just gonna be beautiful.
Okay. So for me, my third is Red Bull Racing. It's We've seen it before. We're all used to it. It's a classic design. I don't think it gets enough credit because we keep seeing it every year, and everyone's just like, "Oh, it's the same thing." But if you really look at it, it's a nice looking car.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. It's always nice looking.
So Rafi, what's your number four?
Number four is a tie for me because I can't choose, honestly. It's between the Williams and the Mercedes. Now a lot of people are gonna not like that I'm tying up Williams and Mercedes, but it's just that William design is totally different from what we've seen before from them. That is just a very new and fresh design that I love. That whole dark blue to white to a lighter blue to a very bright sky blue back down to darker colors that fade into black is beautiful. And then
Okay.
kind of the combination of Mercedes where they have like their normal black into like a red and silver. And then of
Okay.
course
So Williams is number four.
it's a tie between Williams and Mercedes. I can't choose between the
Oh,
two.
we got a
Yeah.
tie.
Yeah, that's
Okay, you know what? No ties. You got to pick one. What is
Oh,
it?
I have to pick one.
You got to pick one. Make it quick. Flip
Williams.
that coin.
It's gonna
Williams.
be Williams and then Mercedes. Then it's just because Williams has a fresh design.
All right. So I think for the fourth best livery design, that's got to be McLaren to me. See, I like McLaren. I'm a fan of McLaren. I really want a Gulf livery. Once they do that, it'll be the best one on the grid. Bring it back to those glory days of Gulf liveries. Oh, I mean, even Gulf is their sponsor, so it would make sense. So that's what I'm hoping for. But as of right now, it's okay. There's nothing special about it. Since you already kind of named your fifth one, I guess I'll go ahead and name mine. I guess I'm going to go with Mercedes. It's solid, a little more AMG than I would prefer, but you know what? It gets the point across. It's an AMG.
It's a lot of AMG in the back.
It's a lot of AMG. But you know, they gotta rep their brand.
Oh yeah.
So Rafi, what's your sixth choice?
I'm gonna go with what you thought was one of your more favorites, was the Alpha. Again, that flip into the design, which is beautiful. Again, that the stark color contrast between that red and white is it's always just nice to look at.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a good looking car. It's definitely still looking at it right now. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
For me, number 6, I think I'm gonna go with AlphaTauri. Good looking car. I liked last year's better. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
It's like they did the same thing Alfa Romeo did, where they just flipped the colors around. But you know, I think they had it right last time, and this one doesn't quite work for me.
Yeah.
So, what's your seventh choice?
My seventh. Not many people are gonna like it. I think Red Bull, just because we've seen it before. It's a rehash. There's nothing wrong with it. It's like if there's nothing wrong with it, don't fix it. Just with all the new ones we're seeing, like with the flip with like AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo, I feel like they wanted to probably maybe step it up, but you know, it's a classic and it's a good one.
Okay, I think for number 7 for me, this is also going to be a lot of shocker for people, but it's Alpine. It's I just realized I would have almost forgotten about it completely. Luckily, I just scrolled past it and saw it. I went, you know what? Yeah, it still would have ended up here. I like it, but it reminds me of a can of Pepsi.
Oh, 100%, it's the Pepsi car.
Yeah,
but I hope you're forgetting about Alpine isn't like a foreshadowing of their performance this season. I would not want to forget about them.
With Fernando Alonso, I don't think that team will be that low. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we're going to get some great radio messages back in like his McLaren days. So Rafi, go ahead and tell us your number 8.
My number 8. Oh, I'm looking at the ones I have left, honestly, and I
basically Haas.
It's Haas, Alpine, and Ferrari. Oh, yeah. I got to go with the Pepsi car.
Pepsi.
You know? Even though I'm more of a Coke fan, the Pepsi car, it looks nice, you know, repping they have the French flag, repping their country. And it is nice to look at, but like you said, I also did forget about Alpine for a bit.
Yeah, it just seems it was more memorable as Renault, and hopefully that doesn't hurt them in the long run because of it.
I don't think
I'm going to go ahead and name off my 8th. And this is going to be a shocker, especially for all of us Americans. I think I'm going to put Haas.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You know, it's clean. Yeah, Russia. All right. And then the whole Mazepin situation. But you know what? It's not an ugly car, but it just doesn't feel right. Russian flag on an American team. What are you going to do about it, though?
Yeah, that is true.
Go ahead and name your 9th choice. We're getting here down by the bottom.
Oh, I hope it is not a foreshadowing of how they are going to perform this season. I have Ferrari as my 9th choice, purely because of they added that green for the minion or
Mission win now. Yeah.
yeah, or it's just it didn't make sense. The car was so beautiful up to that point. It's just I can't stop staring at it. Like I'm honestly looking at the car and all I could think about is that green logo. It does not match the car at all. I know they're trying to do the like the Italian flag kind of thing, but it looks like they just threw it on there just to get the green
Yeah.
accent in.
I gotta agree with you for Ferrari. It's number 9 for me. One, that green, you're right. Like it's obviously there just to grab your attention, but man, does that ruin the look of the car.
It
Plus,
does.
this is another controversial comment here. I'm really sick of seeing the matte red Ferrari. Bring back the shine, bring back the
Oh,
Ferrari old school ways. You
you
know,
you know I love matte finish cars.
oh,
I love it.
I can't stand
That's
it.
something we're gonna have to work on either for
Oh,
you or for me.
don't forget that this Ferrari is also two-tone red. It's got a dark red in the rear and a light red in the front, which I just
Yeah.
can't
It's
stand.
like they should have extended that gradient a bit more. Maybe light and then maybe start the dark maybe halfway. But I think they did that because that green red in the center would not look good with the dark red. It doesn't look good
Anyway,
with the bright red either.
it is not a good looking design. However, that leads us to your 10th.
Yeah, and it's the one team I haven't named yet. It's
Yeah.
Haas. It's
Uh-oh.
just it's not the whole like yeah, maybe the whole Mazepin scenario and situation is kind of affecting my choice, but it's just bland. It's just bland compared to the others. Like I do like my darker colors, but it's just like that is like I love that they changed the whole entire script of like the design of the car for like color wise. But they could have done a lot better. They could have done a lot better with it, in my
You know,
opinion.
it's funny because you say how bland it looks, but that leads me to like name my 10th, which is Williams. I'm a Williams fan. You know, I never got to see them in their heyday, unfortunately, but I support. And last year's livery I thought looked really clean, even though it was kind of sad of why it looked that way. Sponsors pulled out.
Yeah,
I preferred it better than this. It looks like some generic computer generated livery. Like I get the little yellow thrown in from the 80s and the 90s heyday. I just, what were they thinking?
real.
Yeah, I can't stand it. Yeah,
I guess I could see the whole like computer generated look, but I think that's what appeals to me is it it just looks clean in my opinion. It just
it's too
looks
busy for
good.
my eye, and W is poorly placed. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on to reactions to the testing. Of course, as we all know, if we're big into Formula One, that you really can't judge where all the teams are at. It's too hard to tell. They're all running different programs, different fuel loads, different tires, and of course, a lot of sandbagging. But I think there was one thing we all have to mention is how Mercedes looked at this testing. Um, few of you may remember back in 2019, Mercedes did have some struggles then, but by the end of testing, they got it under control. This year, they only had 3 days of testing, so they might have not been able to figure out what's going wrong. Rafi, what's your opinion on this?
I think you named it exactly. I think just because of how short the testing was, that Mercedes just couldn't figure it out, or maybe they're doing the long con and just sandbagged all 3 sessions. But I don't see why they would do that.
See, I
I
agree with the most what most people are saying right now that they weren't fully sandbagging those spins. Those were not on purpose. That only hurts them in the long run because they need to
yeah.
understand their car the best they can for this season. To go into like a little recap of what happened in 2019, they showed up at that first week of testing with a different car or like their initial car, and in the second week they pretty much brought a whole bunch of design changes, which made the car go quicker. Like that week one car was never actually going to race. Now it kind of leaves me wondering: is that something that's going to happen here, where they're going to show up in Bahrain this coming weekend and have a totally different car? Or they really are in trouble for at least these first couple of races.
I'm hoping that they show up with more design changes to make it a bit more competitive. But honestly, I would like to see, a few other teams kind of run it in the front. It it's definitely an interesting thing that has happened. Like there was like I think at least every team spun in testing. I might be wrong, but I think
Yeah,
at least a majority of them spun.
Yeah, you gotta test the new machinery, make sure find its limits. Which kind of leads us to the team that's kind of seems like it's coming out of testing top dog, which is Red Bull with Max Verstappen. How do you think they're going to do this season?
I honestly think people were saying last season was the season for Red Bull to make the run at Mercedes. I disagree. And after testing, I think this is the season that they can probably take it from Mercedes as long as both drivers perform at their peak, which from testing we did see them perform both very well. I think Red Bull has a good shot at maybe taking number one.
See,
if Mercedes does perform like they do in testing.
If Mercedes is like they're testing and they're going to be a bit behind, yeah, that opens the door for Red Bull to take some of the race wins if they're really as solid as they are, which they seem. They got a lot of laps done, during testing. However, I just feel going into the season, Mercedes knows what they're going to do. They have a game plan already. Yeah, they're a little further behind than they would have liked, but they're going to midway through the season, they're going to come back and they're going to come back with a vengeance and take the championship.
Going to be firing on all cylinders.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice car pun there.
Yeah, I always got it. My goal is to sneak one in at least every podcast.
Okay, so let's talk about last year's third place, McLaren. They had a pretty strong showing. It was quiet, almost too quiet.
But that's
right?
good.
Is it?
I think it is. I think it is. I would rather them be radio silent with everything than being like, hey, this testing went well, but we didn't like how we performed. I think they performed solidly, both Lando and Ricardo.
Yeah, Ricardo, comparing his transplant from Red Bull to Renault in 2019 to his transplant to McLaren, seems like it's gone a lot smoother. He seems happy. Like he always had a smile at Renault, especially in the 2019. He was excited, but it's a different feel. He feels like it looks like he's already at home. Now, one comment I'm going to make before we get way off topic here is I don't think the bromance between Ricardo and Norris is going to happen. I think that's being pushed way too much, and it's just not going to happen.
I think I got to agree with you a little bit. They're both known as like the jokesters and the guys that like to have fun. Like I bet you they're going to poke fun at each other, but it's not going to be how Sainz and Norris were, to where they were, buddy buddies. I remember watching some of the unboxed episodes from McLaren, and they were just sitting down playing FIFA, having a laugh.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think new driver, so there's definitely going to be change there, and of course, new engine for McLaren. I think the Mercedes, if it's strong, I know there were some reliability issues with Aston Martin, which we'll get into later, and Mercedes themselves with that engine. I feel like McLaren's really got it figured out, and they're going to use the token thing to their advantage. I could easily see them competing for P3, potentially, depending on who it is, fighting for P2.
Yeah, that's a hot take.
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm a big McLaren fan. I started watching in 2020, when quarantine was around. In fact, you were the one that got me into it.
Yep.
And immediately it was a McLaren. I was like, something about McLaren got me. I hope they can start competing for P2, getting back maybe into their glory days. Hopefully, maybe winning a championship sooner rather than later. But definitely
I'd love
P3,
to see a McLaren
P2.
win. A McLaren win this year would be something special.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out which driver, though, I haven't yet decided. But let's move down the grid. Let's move down the grid before we get into that. Aston Martin, who was Racing Point, who was, before that, Force India.
Oh.
How do you think their testing went?
I think that sigh really
kind of says it all.
I think it says it all. I think we were expecting more out of it. Like we as fans hyped it up a lot more than what we got, and I think that's somewhat on our end.
Oh, it's also on Aston Martin's end. They hyped that up. I remember before the press releases and all that of the new team. I'm like, okay, maybe P4, maybe P3. They're a strong team, but I don't think they're going to be much better. And then, you got Lawrence Stroll coming in with his, Dr. Evil kind of presentation. You're like, oh my God, they're going to win the championship this year. And they kind of fell on their face in testing, especially Sebastian Vettel.
But I think Lawrence Stroll is a businessman, so of course he's gonna talk up his team, and I think they will perform well. I think it's just gonna take one or two races to start going. Uh, I I think just because it's a whole new car, like a newer car design, there's a lot of stuff that they had to keep over because of the new rules for 2021. But
See, what I think about Aston Martin, besides the engine reliabilities that severely hurt Vettel's adapting to the team, I think they're going to struggle the same way Mercedes is. So everyone's been talking like, oh, it's the floor, the low rake, high rake situation that's affecting the Mercedes to be unstable. We keep forgetting that last year, Racing Point, it was called the Pink Mercedes because it was a very close design of that the years before's Mercedes. Now, this Aston Martin, it's a bit different. They have their own parts on it, and it's definitely an evolution of it, of their own design, but yet it still has traces of that Mercedes. And I think that's where their problem's going to lie. They're not as fast because they got hurt the same way Mercedes did.
yeah, I gotta agree with you. I honestly I can't speak anymore because you're kind of reiterating you're iterating what I would
Right.
say. But we're gonna see as soon as like Mercedes starts to pick up, Aston Martin may start to pick up because since they are kind of running, they're not similar cars, but the designs are just based off just better versions of last year's. That
Yeah.
it's just gonna take the same kind of time.
I get the feeling that if they can't make something happen quickly in the season, they're just going to fail on it. Not completely like Haas, which we'll get into a bit later, but
But that's it.
they're just going to be like, all right, let's just cut our losses, focus on the next year with the new regs coming in. But let's keep this moving. Let's talk about Alpine, the forgettable team that we keep just.
Oh, oh
I
man,
don't know what about the team. It's
I
you think I'd be excited for Alonso, but I can't get any hype for this team with myself.
no, I'm the same way. It's I'm not forgetting about them because I don't like them. I'm forgetting about them just because I think I'm still thinking of Renault and I'm waiting for Renault to happen. But
Right. I
I
keep looking for the yellow car.
yeah, I think they're as much as they want to try to be on the upper end of the midfield. I think they're just going to be like the solid midfield team. They're going to be battling for fourth or fifth, maybe with Aston,
I think
maybe with another team.
they're gonna be not initially, but throughout the season a little worse this year, because as we all know, Cyril, the team boss, was let go, and now they're like two
Or
people in charge.
Cyril.
I haven't really figured out who is in charge yet. And
I don't.
I think that little no direction right now will cause a little bit of damage to their performance.
Yeah, definitely. And plus, with Alonso coming in, he's such,
Yeah, the
he's
real
he's
team
such a,
principal.
yeah, he's the real team principal. Definitely, he's just
He's
such a
gonna be
presence that a
yeah.
lot of it's going to be on there. I think this is the year that Ocon has to prove himself, but also understand that he may just be taking a backseat because Alonso's Alonso.
I
He's a
am
star.
generally worried for Alcon. I don't
Genuinely,
want
yeah.
to see what happened to Van Dorn happen to him. I think he is a talented driver. He definitely deserves his place on the grid. However, going against Alonso, not at first you can kind of keep up with him, but it's the constant. It starts to get into like he keeps beating him, and it just slowly goes downhill. So I'm worried for him, but you never know. You could be surprised.
Yeah.
Alonso might have become a little rusty in his 2 years off from the sport, and we'll see. We'll definitely see this season.
And if he is rusty, how long is it going to take for that rust to wear off? That's
I
a big question. That
personally, I don't think he's rusty.
no,
He's
honestly,
like,
I don't think he's rusty. I think I'm just trying to put hopes in for Ocon, being like,
yeah,
oh, maybe he's a little bit rusty. Maybe Ocon will. I don't think. I think Ocon, with some luck, will out qualify Alonso, but I think most of the time Alonso's going to be out qualifying Ocon, finishing higher than Ocon.
Okay, let's jump to the next team, which is Ferrari.
Do
Yeah, they
we have to?
yeah. I don't get your hopes up. They're not fighting for the championship this year. Um, Truthfully, they're going to be a midfield team. I feel they might get a podium here or two. I don't see anything special coming from them this year.
I think it's gonna be a rare podium,
Rare
barring
podium like last year, where they got what, like
yeah.
three?
I I think they got 3,
Yeah,
2 or
two
3.
Leclerc and one Vettel.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the car, yeah, it's going to be an improvement. They won't have like the Monza just embarrassment. That weekend could not get
I
any more
I
embarrassing
hope
last
they don't
year.
have another Monza weekend. I I don't. No matter what team it is, I don't like to see both cars just crash out or just have to
So slow.
out of the race or just they're just fighting each other because there's no one else to fight. I don't like to see it because I guess it's some kind of like empathetic response of they're great drivers. I don't like to see them struggle.
You know, if they have another bad season, the only thing I could say is one, they'll get more wind tunnel time, and so hopefully they can use that to their advantage and have a
Hopefully.
better car for the new regs. And two, if they keep disappointing us, they can only have room to go up. Like, there's going to be a point where we can't be disappointed anymore, and any improvement's going to be like, oh yes, they're finally getting it. So
I don't.
I kind of keep that, that
It's like
hope.
it's like a little Williams scenario, like the current Williams scenario. It's like, oh, they placed higher. That's so great. I love it. I gotta agree. I think that whole, even though it's never been disclosed, the whole what was it, their power unit debacle, that really set them back. I think in 2022 they may be back, maybe up in the upper midfields, but yeah, this maybe fifth or sixth place this time.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything special, but that leads us to the next team, Alpha Tauri. I think they're going to be good.
Oh, I think they're going to be phenomenal.
I
I
think
I
top
am
five.
hyping Towery. I'm hyping them so much. The car looks great. The car performed great, at least in my eyes. Both drivers seem like they have that fire under them, the spark. Tsunoda coming in, proving his worth. Gasly coming off a hot season last season. With his I think it was his Monza win.
Yeah.
I think this team is fourth, or it's fighting up for the upper five. Maybe we'll see Tower number 3. Who knows? If stuff will have to go very wrong for that up.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of agree with all of that. They're impressive. Sonoda has definitely impressed me already. Now I was kind of hoping for Albon to go back into the Alpha Tauri.
We
I
all
feel like he
were.
deserves another chance, but let's give the new kid a shot. He seems to be really good. He could be like a Raikkonen. People said he was too young, inexperienced, because Sonoda is pretty inexperienced. He only has what 3-4 years of actual racing under his belt, but
Yeah, about that.
he's quick, and quick is what's important.
Mm.
So
Let's
let's jump to the next team real quick, which is Haas.
man.
What do you think of Haas?
I don't have a lot to say. It's uh the I don't have a lot to say. The car performed all right. It does have the Ferrari engine, so it is, they do have their problems. I think they're having 2 rookies. We've never seen 2 rookies before. It I think time will tell for them. I don't think there's much that we can see or predict from
I'm
the
only going to say one
testing.
sentence: last in the championship,
I 100% agree.
and that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to move on to Williams. Williams will get points this year. I feel.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
it won't be a lot of points. Maybe about the same amount of points Haas got this previous year, like 3 if they're lucky, because they're set up for certain tracks and wind conditions, as Russell was saying. So I feel like they'll get points. I don't think it's going to be fighting in the midfield really. It's gonna require a few things, but it's hopefully a step in the right direction, which is important.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is our reaction to testing. Let's jump to teammate battle because we kind of briefly mentioned it there. Let's jump into it. Who we think is going to win this championship battle between drivers. So first up, let's start off with the world champions, Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Rafi, who do you think is going to win that battle?
I think it's going to be like how it was for the past 6-7 years. Hamilton's going to be on top. I think he's coming back one more season just to get all the accolades. So.
Oh yeah, this is his 8th title in the making in his mind.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Let's not spend any time on that one since we're both in the real. It's Hamilton. We know that.
Yeah.
Bottas, great driver. He's definitely a number 2 driver. He'll never be given the chance. But Red Bull, this is the one that's going to annoy people, from my opinion. Rafi, who do you think is going to win this teammate battle?
I've actually given a lot of thought to this. I think Perez is going to come up on top, just edging it out, maybe by 1 or 2 points. But I think Perez is going to be on top. He is just such a consistent driver.
I thought Perez too, not because he's a faster driver or really Verstappen, I think, is an all-around better driver. The 2 reasons why I'm putting Perez ahead is I think Verstappen's going to become Crash-Stappen again, because now he's got a teammate that can potentially challenge him, and he's going to be looking for that little extra to beat him, and he'll be just going a little too far, which opens the door to Hamilton again for the championship if the car's not too far behind. And I also believe that Perez, he's got some moves that he's not showing us yet.
Yeah.
Let's jump to Norris Ricciardo.
Oh, the McLaren battle.
I'm going to go ahead and say Norris. He's familiar with the team. He's had, 3 years now? 19, 20. This will be his 3rd year.
Yep.
He knows the team inside out. He's got a podium. He's well in place in that team, and the team absolutely loves him. Who do you think?
See, this is a tough one because we haven't really seen I'm going based off of testing. Based off of testing, it's Norris.
Okay. You think Norris?
Yeah, Ricciardo was just a bit slow in testing for whatever reasons.
I'm kind of expecting how Ricciardo was in 2019 when he first moved to Renault. He's fast. He shows his pace. It's just adapting to the team and the new car. I think next season could be very different. I honestly could say probably next season is when we see Ricciardo just
pop off
Norris. Yeah, I think it'll be a different driver then. So let's go ahead and move to Aston Martin.
Oh, I got my pick secured already.
Yeah, let me guess.
Yeah,
is it Vettel?
Vettel. Yeah, Vettel.
I mean, I want to give Stroll a chance. I know people don't like him because he's a paid driver, but he did win a Formula 3 championship, and he's gotten podiums. On his day, he's a good driver. He just needs to figure out how to get his day to go.
And he has to always get his day. He has to be consistent.
Yeah. So Vettel, I feel like he's going to be more comfortable in the car. I still feel like we're going to be seeing those mistakes he saw at Ferrari. It's a rebuilding process. He's got to rebuild his legacy a bit. Doesn't mean he wins another championship, but maybe a race win or 2 before he eventually sets sail to, retirement. I think he could do that here at Aston Martin. So let's jump to Alpine, a.k.a. Pepsi.
I think we already know who we're going to say. We were talking about it when we were reactions with testing.
Alonso.
Yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I think Alonso he has no rust. He just has that racing prowess. It's going to be a tough year for Ocon.
I think so too. Hopefully he can hang in there. It's good to see a young driver succeed, but you're going against one of the toughest drivers in the modern Formula One grid.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump over to Ferrari. Now this one, I am just not sure.
Yeah, it's a toss up. It's a big toss up. Leclerc is familiar. He's fast and he's familiar with the team, but Sainz, he was a great driver at McLaren, and I think just putting him in a Ferrari is he's just going to be a great driver at Ferrari. So I'm gonna go off, and I'm gonna say Sainz is gonna go on top.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Leclerc. like we were kind of mentioning with Norris, and like you said, he's in the team already. He's been there for a while, and he clearly was their number one driver last year.
He
Um,
also has the longest contract in Ferrari. I think it's 5 years.
right.
So
And as much as I like Sainz, Ferrari's already basically said he's a holdover for Mick Schumacher,
yeah,
which I feel is kind of a shame that they shouldn't make that decision yet. But we'll see that, or we'll see what happens.
yeah.
Let's
Who
jump
knows?
to Alpha Tauri real quick. Who do you think?
I got to go with Gasly, only because we haven't seen Tsunoda in F1. Like, yeah, he did well in F3 and F2, but F1's a whole different field,
Yeah,
whole different kind of racing.
this
I
was a
think
tough one.
Yeah,
Gasly's definitely got the experience now. He's got a race win, so the confidence has got to be going well. He loves that team. You could just tell. However, I think Sonoda's going to take it. It's going to be
Oh,
tough. I think it's going to be
oh,
tough in the beginning. He's going to have his
oh.
mistakes. He's going to crash a few times. And all of a sudden, it will click, and there will be no going back.
I hope you're right. I would love to eat my words on this. I would love to eat my words that Tsunoda will be above Gasly at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I see if Perez doesn't perform this year, Sonoda going to Red Bull the year after, which is kind of bold, but I kind of see it
Maybe.
happening.
Uh, I think that's all dependent on the whole Perez situation. If
Let's jump to
Perez
Raikkonen
performs,
and
yeah,
Giovinazzi at Alfa Romeo. I think this is another easy one, personally. But what is your take? I think it's Raikkonen. I think he's just going to beat him again.
yeah, it's not that hard to say. Raikkonen.
I mean,
I
they
don't know how
were
many.
tied on points last season, but I just feel like overall, Raikkonen just had better races in general. He was more likely to be in a points position than Giovinazzi was.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're at Haas.
Oh, these are hot takes we're about to say. I bet. I'm
Uh
going
huh.
Schumacher.
You're going Schumacher. What a shocker.
Yeah,
You
shocker.
know,
I'm going for Schumacher. I don't know why.
I wonder why F3 or F2 champion and F3 champion versus
Yeah,
the guys who basically probably bought the team, and we'll probably hear that in the next year or so.
yeah.
Um, I'm gonna go with Mazepin.
Is it because
I
he
believe, even though the
bought the team?
Schumacher's name is there,
It's because he bought the team.
and yeah, I think he will become like, hey, you
Yeah.
better make my son the number one driver, or your funding's gone. So I think while it won't be completely obvious like some other teams in the past, I don't think Schumacher will be given a fair shake, and that after this year he will probably leave and go to Alfa Romeo, replacing
Yeah,
Giovinazzi
I
or
definitely
Raikkonen.
see Schumacher's only in Haas just to be in F1 for a year, then to
Yeah,
move up.
yeah,
I definitely see that happening. But
yeah. I don't think he'll be given a fair treatment at Haas this year.
yeah.
All right, last team on the grid:
Uh,
Latifi versus Russell.
you and I talk about this for hours while we play. I'm going Russell. Russell's going to do it. Russell's a great driver. We saw him perform great for Williams, and we saw him perform great for Mercedes. If they could have gotten their double stack good, I think Russell would have won.
You know, I'm gonna go with you, Russell. I always talk and say, Latifi World Champion 2023. I think he's a solid driver. Yeah, he kind of paid for his seat, and he never was truly impressive in Formula 2. But, I feel like if he was in a midfield team, he'd definitely be a consistent point scorer.
Yeah,
I don't think he would see anything special, but he would be up there in fighting.
yeah. Oh, it's no knock to Latifi. It's just Russell is just performing so well. He's like a star at Williams right now.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk first race predictions. Who's going to win this race? Who do you think,
I
Rafi?
think. Are we talking about drivers or teams?
Teams and drivers. Just go for who's winning this race. The
Red Bull's gonna
drivers.
Red Bull's gonna win the race with Verstappen. Perez is gonna be a 1-2 for Red Bull.
Okay. You know what I'm going to put? Mercedes is going to win with Lewis Hamilton.
You see, I'm trying to have a fun take. I think, that's
Nah, but you didn't let me finish. I didn't say they were going to be the absolute better car. I don't think Bottas is getting on that podium.
Oh wow, you think it's just gonna?
Hamilton's going to win the
Wow.
race because, and this is going to steal from a little bit later. We're going to jump in. We're going to have a bold statement of the week. Perez is going to crash into Verstappen, taking them both out.
Or Red Bull's gonna crash into Red Bull. Maybe it'd be Verstappen crashing into Perez.
No. Perez is going to crash into Verstappen, taking them both out. There's going to be Hamilton. I feel like a McLaren is definitely going to be on the podium. Maybe if we're lucky, we see an Aston Martin, but it could be Hamilton, Norris, Ricciardo. I think it is the most likely to my brain.
Yeah, hopefully a Vettel instead of Norris or
Oh,
Ricciardo.
I really want a Vettel, but as soon as if I say Vettel, it's obviously going to be Stroll on that podium.
Yeah, it's just a curse. We're jinxing Vettel at this point.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. That's our race predictions. So the recap: it's Red Bull for Raffi with Verstappen first, Perez second. Who's your third? Who's the third?
Third would probably be Hamilton, just because the way the car's performing. I think Hamilton is just gonna be Hamilton, and even with a subpar Mercedes comparatively to the past years, he's going to be able to pass the McLarens.
Yeah. So for mine, Hamilton first place because the Red Bulls crashed out, and McLaren 2-3. All right. So before we wrap up this podcast, we got two quick things that we want to talk about. A little bit of the rumors that have been going around. So this isn't really a rumor, more of a statement for mine this week. But Zach Brown thinks Verstappen and Russell will race for Mercedes in 2022. What's your take on this, Rafi?
I think Russell definitely. I don't think Verstappen. I
Yeah,
think Verstappen's going to stick with Red Bull.
I feel it's what we've seen so far. Verstappen is incredibly loyal to Red Bull. He wants his first championship to be with Red Bull. After he gets a championship with them, I can see him leaving that team like that if they don't have a good car. But yeah, Verstappen, that's going to be a tough one. I definitely think Russell's going to be there. I kind of hoping it's going to be like a Schumacher Massa, where the master teaches the apprentice. But it'll be hard to say. It could be Russell, and I don't think it's Ocon, honestly. I think they're going to pick up another driver that's probably not in their program.
Or maybe sign on Bottas or Hamilton one more year.
I don't think Bottas will get another shake, and then if they're not going to sign Hamilton, it's just such a tough call.
Yeah.
Go ahead and let us know what your rumor is, Rafi.
Rumors I've been hearing about is McLaren will be finishing second with Red Bull winning the constructors. That's leaving Mercedes most likely third. This is a very hot take. I want this to happen. This won't happen. I want this to happen, but it won't.
Yeah, I as much as I would like to see that, I like McLaren. I want to see them back in their heyday. I think that's just going to be a little too steep of a challenge for them. They got that cool new bit on their car, which no one else had, but I don't think they're quite ready for that second place fight. I don't think Mercedes is that bad off.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move to our bold statements of the week. I already said mine with Perez crashing into Verstappen for the first race, but I feel like to expand on that, that's going to happen throughout the season, potentially costing them the championship.
If that happens throughout the season, I think they're going to be getting rid of the underperforming driver, no matter who it is.
And the only reason why I'm saying this is back in 2013, Perez got signed with McLaren, kind of on their way down from the greatness, but still a decent team. And he crashed into a button a few times. And I just feel like he's going to come in there a bit too aggressive. Verstappen's also going to be incredibly aggressive to show who's boss, and I think they're going to come together quite a few times.
Okay, so my bold statement of the week kind of ties into my race predictions. Is I really don't like the tire compounds this week. This year. They're a bit harder than last year's because of the whole Silverstone incident where every tire kind of blew, and I think that's going to mess up Mercedes enough to where Red Bull's going to be able to have a handle, because Red Bull managed their tires very well last year, and I don't think any of their tires popped during the Silverstone. I think they were able to catch it kind of early. So I
Yeah,
think the tire management from Red Bull is going to be great. I think the tires just this year are going to be worse comparatively. Like I foresee a lot of problems with a lot of the harder slick tires.
that's another thing that maybe with the harder tires, I don't think Mercedes was quite prepared for, and they haven't gotten to grips with their car yet, so which could have caused some of the spins. So I definitely see tires being talked about quite a bit this year. So that's our kind of bold statement of the week. I want to kind of end the podcast with who do you think is going to win the championship this year? What
Who do-
driver?
It's the same old, same old. I think Hamilton's going to somehow pull it through. I
Yep,
think Hamilton's going to win.
I hate to bore all of you listeners out there, but yeah, I think this is number 8 for Hamilton, and
Number
but
2 is going
this
to
will
be the
be
fight to look at.
this will be Hamilton's last year. I feel not as because he's not going to win the championship next year. Well, I mean, I guess he wouldn't, but I don't think he's going to get re-signed for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
that has been the Knockoff Media Tire for Tire podcast. Thank you for so much for listening. Please share, like, subscribe, or whatever. We'll be rolling it out to many different platforms in the coming weeks. And stick tuned. We should have another podcast for next week about the race in Bahrain. Any last comments, Rafi?
I'm excited for the race. Bahrain's my favorite track. I can't wait to see if any of our predictions come true.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens too. So once again, thank you all and have a great week.